Hello, welcome to the shed. But we're not in the shed, are we? No, on this beautiful October day, we're at ARRI, where we're going to have a first look at their very, very exciting Signature Zooms.
Welcome to ARRI in Uxbridge, and today we're here to talk about the ARRI Signature Zooms. This is the first time they've been seen in the UK, and today we have two examples here, two of the prototypes that I'm going to share with you. I think when we first started to develop the Signature Primes, we were always looking to complement them with a family of zoom lenses as well. Obviously the 16 Primes were the first to come, and now we're in a position to start to roll out the Signature Zooms to complement them. We have 4 new Signature Prime zooms. The 2 we have here today are the mid-range and the long zoom, which is the 65 to 300 and the 45 to 135. The 45 to 135 is actually 3.7 kilograms, and the 65 to 300 is 8 kilos. So all of the lenses are T28 across the range. This is the 1.7 extender, and this will take the 65 to 300 zoom up to 510, and that moves it from a T28 to a T4.9. We're not changing the close focus either when we put this extender on, so that's quite important. This could also be used on the 280 prime lens as well. Obviously we have a full range of lenses running from 16mm up to 510, so I think in terms of the coverage, we're going to cover most eventualities and most situations that you'll find yourself in. The whole point of the lenses though were to match the Signature Primes, so in terms of the bokeh, in terms of the skin tone rendition, we're looking to match the zooms and the primes, and I think we're quite unique in being the only full set of primes and zooms that match across the entire range. We wanted to keep the lenses the same in terms of the look and the features, and the rear magnetic filter holders that let you bring creativity into the way you use the zooms. So for instance, we can put diopters, we can put split diopters, we can net, we can wire to create flares. I have a couple of examples of the rear filter holders here. So what we have here is I have, for instance, a split diopter. By putting a diopter on, not only does it magnify, but it also gives good roll-off on the edges, and then you can take that look to another lens.
Yes.
So I can change that look between the lenses. I can decide to bake it in or not bake it in. So on the widest we have is a 16 to 32, and that is extremely wide, because don't forget, a large format zoom at 16mm is equivalent to about a 12mm on a Super 35. So it really is extremely wide. And what we're seeing is on features, recent features like 1917, for instance, where you're using 3 prime lenses. We could have used 1 zoom on that entire production, and that would have minimized the amount of lens changes, especially on a rig like a Trinity and where you're moving fast. It really minimizes the amount of lens changes you have to do. You can match that again with the prime lenses as well. So in terms of, say, the skin tone rendition, the bokeh, the creamy aesthetic, it matches across the complete range. When we started to look at the whole Signature Prime range, and that includes the zooms as well, is we wanted to design a new lens for the digital age and for digital sensors. So the first thing we looked at actually was to reduce the flange depth from 52 down to 44 millimeters, because we don't have a rotating mirror anymore. And by getting the lens closer to the sensor, we can reduce color aberrations, we can reduce the angle of the light hitting the sensor. And it allows us to bring the light parallel out the back of the lens. And this is called telecentricity. And the reason for the LPL mount is that if you want to cover a full frame sensor, the physical size of an LPL mount isn't big enough. So the LPL mount is actually much larger, it's a bigger hole in effect, to let the light come through in a parallel way. And the light coming through in a parallel way, or as parallel as possible, means that you don't get color aberrations at the edges. It allows you to build wide-angle lenses without having to really stretch the light across a sensor. And this is why you see on the lenses, both the zooms at wide and on the Signature Primes at wide, is there's very little distortion at the edges of the frames. There's no barreling, there's no color aberrations, and the shading across the entire lens is consistent. The lenses are designed for the rental market primarily. They're quite expensive, 40,000 euros up to 60,000 euros for the longs. So we don't expect many individuals to be using these. Maybe, as we discussed earlier, on a Trinity, for instance, an owner-op might own a lens because it covers a very wide range, rather than investing in a set of primes. but primarily we think this will be a rental lens. I think the demand for the lenses will also come from the DOPs. I think to be able to shoot consistently across zoom and prime lenses is going to be a very unique selling point of these lenses. And already we've had a lot of interest from DPs that are shooting with Signature Primes. 45 to 135 and the 65 to 300 behind me are due for end of Q1 delivery. And the remaining two lenses, including the wide, are due at the end of the year, about November time.